Hello, I am Cody Ellingham, and this is the Transformation of Value podcast. This show is brought to you by Swarbricks, the first law firm in New Zealand to accept Bitcoin for legal services. James Swarbrick is the director. I've had good conversations with him and have verified that he is a Bitcoiner who gets it. Swarbricks is a general practice firm, however James is knowledgeable about the legal aspects of Bitcoin in New Zealand in areas like estate planning, property and trusts. Swarbricks offers a 20% discount for services paid in Bitcoin. Find out more at swarbricks.co.nz/Bitcoin. Now in today's episode, I talk with Evan Lin, a Kiwi software engineer currently working on the Bitcoin development kit. We talk about Evan's journey to get funded by Spiral to work full-time on open source Bitcoin projects, his experience working and living in Taiwan, and how we can encourage emerging developers to put their time and effort into Bitcoin. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, please send an email to hello@thetransformationofvalue.com and I will get back to you. Otherwise, on to the show. The button has been clicked, so we're all good. So we can just chill for a bit and we'll find a nice place to cut in. But how you been, mate?
I've been doing well. A little bit busy. I just got back from Europe.
BTC Prague.
Yeah, that's the one.
How was it?
I think it was good. Because I'm actually quite new to the Bitcoin industry, so that was nice. Seeing a lot of people in person for the first time. Yeah, but I don't know. I think I didn't get much out of the talks, but I think meeting the people and going around the different stores, that was the main highlight of the trip.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's cool, man. And so you zooming out a little bit, man. I think I found you through Twitter, but you grew up in New Zealand, right?
Yeah, born and raised in New Zealand.
Yeah,
but my parents are from Taiwan, so I'm here in Taiwan now. Yeah, I got here 2018 because I wanted to learn Mandarin properly.
Did you just sort of learn it through family when you're in New Zealand?
Yeah, when I was, I'll speak Mandarin at home, but it was quite basic. And then I didn't really see the importance of Mandarin because it was New Zealand. It was just surrounded by, it was English everywhere. But then after I grew up, I realized the importance of learning your culture or the other culture of mine. So
that's cool, man. What part of New Zealand were you in?
Auckland.
Yeah, no, it's that's cool, man. Yeah, just kind of reconnecting with that side of things, and especially if you've spoken a little bit at home and then kind of going and discovering it, it's a bit of a journey, right?
Yeah, definitely. Where are you from, Cody?
I'm from Hawke's Bay, but
nice.
I live in Wellington at the moment. But I actually spent quite a bit of time in Taiwan, been learning the Chinese myself. So
nice.
Yeah, really exciting. I sort of nostalgic for it, man, because it's cold, windy Wellington, and I'm like, man, it must be hot tropical Taipei for you right now.
Yeah, so next month is going to be the hottest month of the year, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was good though. Because I think there's a lot of similarities with Taiwan and New Zealand. Sort of both islands, kind of relatively small countries with a big neighbor. Really chilled out island vibes. What's your experience been? Kind of contrasting it with Auckland and New Zealand.
Ooh, there are definitely similarities. But we are comparing Asia with the Western countries, so there are big differences as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did get a little bit of a culture shock. Yeah. But other than that, I think people are friendly in general. Except I think
friendly as, man. Taiwanese people are the nicest people I've ever met. But
I think Taipei compared to the rest of Taiwan, you do get more rude people, and it's a city area. The chances of meeting someone who's crazy is higher.
Yeah.
So I also got my fair share of meeting crazy people as well.
It's big cities anywhere is like that. But I just remember I took the train once. I went down to Hualien.
Nice.
And left from Taipei, and I went Hualien on the east coast, and there's parts of that, and I was like, man, this looks like the South Island. the hills and like these massive cliffs. And then the trains we were taking were like it was like one of these old diesel electric things. And it's like the same kind of train we have in New Zealand, just like the shape and stuff. And it's like, it feels like you're like taking some random train, Southern Alps or something, like,
Yeah.
but without the snow. I don't know, it was kind of like just, yeah, it was like a bit of deja vu, you know? Um, and a really
Yeah.
happening city in Taipei in particular. Like there's heaps of people sort of floating through. There are a lot of like ventures and stuff. Like it feels like my general impression was that it kind of punches above its weight for a country of like 20 million people. Like stuff's happening, you know, there's the semiconductor industry, there's the tech industry, like heaps of tech companies like Foxconn and that are based out of Taiwan. Like, I don't know, have you had much of a chance to explore that side of things or?
Um, Not really, unfortunately.
That's all right, man.
Yeah.
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 Well, you're in Taipei since 2018. Keen to understand a little bit about your story, how you ended up there, because obviously you got the family connection, but you've also been supported by Spiral BTC to do some of your software development. So, like, could you run me through like that story? Like, how did you end up in that position?
Sure. So, from the very start, yeah, I was not enjoying university
In New Zealand?
in New Zealand.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was University of Auckland. I wanted to find a job and get out of university as soon as I can. Eventually, I did land a job with a crypto company.
yeah,
Um, and I'm very grateful to them in the sense that first I got exposed to Bitcoin, but also they gave me a decent salary for me at the time, and so enabled me to like travel around. Yeah, so then started with that, and then I think during COVID I started rethinking a lot of things. So the first off, I wasn't really happy with the work that I was doing. Like initially, I was learning a lot, but then what I realized was that this company, in my opinion, they only really cared about what the product looked on the outside. I wouldn't even say it's a product, but me being an engineer, and then I realized like there's a lot of cut corners, and many of the things are very centralized, and they were just doing everything for show basically. And then yeah, so I didn't really enjoy my job. It didn't really align with uh, that my values basically. So during COVID, everybody was places were locked down, so I had more time like indoors thinking about life in general. And then I couldn't put myself to put put more hours into my work. I was like working part time for like a year, like maybe like 20 hours a week. And then they wanted me to give more hours. I couldn't. So eventually, I guess they wanted to let me go. And I was thinking like, hey, what's the next step? And then I think my main influences during the time was like Lynn Alden and then also Alex Gladstein, like listening to their podcast, reading the articles and all that, like really for me, like really sold me and then really made me understand the importance of Bitcoin. I was like, hey, I want to see if I can, make money doing this Bitcoin thing. So, oh, and then so from there, I decided to do the Chainco Lab seminars. So I did both of them. So one for the like Bitcoin mainnet on chain stuff, and then I also did the Lightning one. And after that, I was like, hey, what can I do with this? And then the first thing I wanted to do was I didn't like the desktop wallets in the Bitcoin space. I think, for example, I don't know what the state is now, but like before when I was using Sparrow, like I was using like the latest version of Bitcoin Core, so I had a Ledger wallet at the time. Just things weren't working properly together, like I wished. I know that other people with different other combinations of, different stuff, they had a very good experience with Sparrow. I'm sure they've probably improved a lot now, but during that time, I think I didn't like the desktop wallet options. So I was like, hey, I'm going to create a desktop wallet. So yeah, I used BDK, so Bitcoin Dev Kit, which is a Rust library. And then because I'm a Linux guy, I really liked GTK for like the UI element. I mean, for the desktop interface framework. And then it turns out that GDK worked very well with Rust, and then BDK is also in Rust. I was like, hey, I want to do my project in Rust because it's also a language I want to learn for a while. And then, so yeah, that's me with Bitcoin, with learning Rust and learning GDK. And then soon after, I started contributing more like directly into BDK, and that's where things really got started.
Yeah. So you were just doing this on your own at first, just like as a hobby to learn more, or
Yeah, I mean, also like I think my initial thoughts was hopefully like people saw the value of this Bitcoin wallet, and hopefully I could somehow get funding for it. Like I don't know, it's just nothing concrete in my head at that time. But I was like thinking there was hope in this, so then I wanted to give it a go, basically.
yeah, that's really cool. And so you worked through that, and then
Yeah.
you put together a proposal for a spiral grant.
Yes.
So how did that happen? Yeah.
So initially, I thought, hey, maybe I wasn't competent enough to get a spiral grant, but I was doing my PRs and all that. And eventually, one of the other contributors at the time, Lloyd Fournier, because I was in Taiwan and he's based in Malaysia, he basically invited me over to Malaysia to do a little hackathon. And then I'm very grateful for him because I think he saw the potential in me, and then he like mentored me, and also like he knew that I had no income at that time, so he basically just paid me out of his pockets basically to sustain me. And then I think that carried on for a little bit, and then what happened was I've heard from other people that Spiral wasn't looking to fund more BDK developers because I think they had a lot of funding for BDK developers already. That's what I heard. So I was like, hey, maybe I'll just prove myself more, proof of work, before I applied. And then I kept that mentality until I saw like this contributor that I've never heard of. They got a grant from Super Luna, I think. And I was like, hey, nah, it's time for me to apply. So then I applied, and then I actually got the grant pretty fast. And that's how it started.
Well, I read your proposal just before. I think it's on it's online.
Yeah.
And it just talks a little bit about sort of what you were proposing to do as part of the grant. Because I think, yeah, you were really interested in working on that Bitcoin dev kit, and you mentioned hardware wallet interface and a few other things. Which, I mean, when did you get that grant, and like how has it been tracking? Have you been able to achieve what you set out to achieve? What did you initially propose to do?
Yeah. So I think with software in general, but also I think open source software, especially, things can be very unpredictable. So I think I got um, Spiral basically said they're interested in giving me the grant maybe like end of last year, but had to go through like the process and all the um, admin stuff and all that. And then I think the grant was like finalized around April, I think. And then yeah, on the grant, I did talk about like the first thing was completing like the I guess redesign or rewrite of BDK in general. So I think BDK is a very powerful library, and then you can do a lot of stuff in a very easy to use package. But I think the main problem, like it wasn't like if you wanted to use BDK, you had to kind of use the whole thing like as a monolith. It wasn't flexible enough. So I think the idea of the redesign, the first idea was to kind of like decouple everything. So for example, we'll have like a separate coin selection library. So if you just only needed coin selection, you can use that. And then we had one, right now it's called BDK chain, which is like purely just like the in-memory representation of relevant data. So like wallet data, for example. And then you had different like chain sources. So this is where you grab stuff from the network, and we have different ones for Electrum, Explorer, compact block filters, Bitcoin Core RPC, and anyone can create these, and then like the persistence is just completely separate as well. And then that's a part of the redesign. And then the other part is the library before it wasn't very good for like async or like concurrent operations. So like for example, if you're doing I/O, so like input output, so this could either be persisting data on disk or grabbing stuff from the internet and just waiting for like a remote service. Your whole wallet would just be locked and you couldn't do anything else. For example, you couldn't grab the balance, you can't create transactions. So, for example, if you're syncing your wallet and then like you're pulling data from Electrum, you can't do anything. You have to just wait on the wallet, and that's one of the major downsides. And I think right now BDK is going through this process of like this rewrite redesign to basically make it easier to use during these like async stuff. So
Yeah. Can we go just a layer higher here? So like,
yeah,
tell me more about BTK. Like, because it's actually I hadn't really heard much about it, but like, what actually is it, and like, how does it fit into the ecosystem more broadly? Like, maybe for non-technical people, like what is the development kit enable?
right. So BDK basically is a library for developers. So
So the Bitcoin development kit, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then if basically it's just a set of tooling or a set of pre-written logic and structures which any developer can use if they want to do anything that are like on-chain Bitcoin related. Like I think it's more specific for wallets. So, for example, obtaining relevant transactions from different services such as Electrum, Explorer, Bitcoin Core, and then after that, how do you create a transaction from transactions that you have your history? And also like stuff to do with backups. So generating your seed phrase. Actually, that's done with another library, and then like stuff with like mini scripts as mini script and like what the script is, and then also how do you sign the transaction and yeah, basically all of that.
So, so the idea would be, for example, if someone wanted to make a wallet and they were really interested in the user experience in the front end, there's some really quite complex stuff at a low level, opcodes and, building transactions and stuff that you could actually use these libraries from the BDK, and you wouldn't have to necessarily, write that from scratch and possibly risk making a mistake. There's this open source system that's already been built for that single function, and then a front end developer could focus on just building the interface and not have to go all the way down. Is that sort of the idea for it?
Yeah, that's a very good summary.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'll just I'm just looking at. I know I was listening to a discussion around Bitcoin Core and just some of the challenges they've had. I think they're going through, or they may have already gone through this process of kind of clawing off the wallet from a lot of the other functionality, and kind of, as you say, I think that monolithic approach that they've got at the moment where it's all just one thing. I don't know. Do you know if that's already happened or that's about to happen? Like,
Yeah, I think it is happening. I don't know like too much. I think I don't follow the Bitcoin core development as much as I can. But I know like one of the major efforts is they're trying to like I guess what do you call it? Like not take out, but kind of like separate the stuff to do with consensus. So then like maybe like other node implementations could like reuse what Bitcoin core uses for the consensus
without having to have all the other wallet stuff. So you can just use that module, right?
Yeah, basically, yes. Yeah.
That's cool. And so, I mean, is there any projects? I mean, what sort of projects are making use of BDK libraries, like that people might know? Like, is there any like where is it being implemented?
Right. I don't know if you heard of Mutiny Wallet.
Yeah.
So Mutiny, and then like the Foundation devices. Who else? Yeah, I can't remember much from the top of my head.
It's okay.
Galloy, I think their new services they're starting to use BDK. Yeah, I think the wallet team at Block are planning to use BDK as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's cool. I mean, I think it really is a paradigm shift. Like, I work with some tech people, and NPM is really popular, and NPM packages, and I mean, obviously, you need to verify and make sure you really you understand what it is that you're referencing. But being able to take something that's really mission critical, like the the wallet, the wallet side of things, or the way it interacts with on chain. These modules which you kind of have to get it 100% right. Having those in a library that can be verified, it has a really easy way to interface with it. There's API calls that you can make to that library to just do what you need it to do. It actually kind of really is good for the ecosystem, because you get other people who maybe are building an online service or whatever, and they just can reference that functionality, and they don't have to build it all from scratch every time, which can be dangerous if you're not proficient. Especially, I understand the Bitcoin script can be very difficult or challenging, I guess, to really fully understand, and you can make mistakes that I mean, you really have to understand everything to write it. Whereas building a front end system, building the wallet interface itself is a little bit more straightforward. And so having this kind of approach that you can use these libraries, I think can really enable the growth of other companies and other businesses and people to build new stuff.
yeah, I think that's mostly correct. I won't say much on the front end side of things. I think that's it's a different type of thinking, definitely. But yeah, but like you're right. Like it's a shared library, so that you have different companies, different projects using the same library, and the benefits of that means more eyes on the code, people reviewing your work, and then yeah, so it's just I think no one's perfect, so the more eyes on the code, the less chance there is of making mistakes, basically.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so you're working on that. You're based out of Taipei. Do
Yeah.
you have a place you can go to? Is there like a Bitcoin community? Because I know you're also part of the Taipei Bit Devs group. So, I mean, what's your
Yeah.
situation like over there? Can you is there a bit of a community for Bitcoin in Taiwan?
Um, the unfortunate part about Bitcoin in Taiwan is the majority of people here, they're not, I don't know the reason why, but they don't seem very interested in like the more, ooh, how do I put this? Most people here will see Bitcoin as an opportunity to increase a number in their bank account. Um,
It's fiat thinking.
yeah, it's fiat thinking. And I was hoping there'll be more people who are focusing on the real problems that Bitcoin is trying to solve. But we do have these communities. So, for example, BitDevs, it's small, but it's growing. And then I think the biggest one we had so far was because Andrew Cho, No Para, which is founder of the Wasabi project, and then also Jimmy Song. I think we had like a Socratic seminar when they all showed up, and then I think that pulled in a lot of people. More people. I mean, it's not huge, like I think 20, 30 people, and that was our biggest so far. And then I think yeah, we've been growing, but it's not a big community of people who really care about the real problems.
With your work though, I mean, I mean, I mean, I imagine there's a team of people. Do you have any other BTK people in Taiwan? Are you mostly just working remote? You check in online, that sort of thing, or?
Yeah, I mainly work online, so most of the people I interact with are overseas. Like for example, Daniela, who's in Italy. Um, Lloyd's not really working on the project too much anymore, but he's a I think he basically architected most of the new structures, and then yeah, he gives really good reviews and gives really good insights. And then Steve Myers, who's based in the US, Nashville. he communicates really well.
Yeah,
He does a lot of the stuff that I'm not so good at, or engineers tend to not be good at. But he is also an engineer as well. He handles a lot of like the DevOps and communication, all that. And then I think in Taiwan, um, I there is someone else who's interested in contributing more to the to BDK. So he sometimes comes with me to the co-working space where I'm at, and then we just kind of hack together. And yeah,
yeah. I mean, what part of Taipei are you in, if I may ask, or like generally?
so I live in Bachao, but it's more close to like the Suling area.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the co-working space is near the government building.
that's
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like you mentioned the Taiwanese maybe struggle to understand the concept at a high level, and just reflecting on my time there, um, that I mean, it's a very interesting political situation that they're in because it's
yeah,
like they're. I mean, my impression at the time when I was last there, which would have been like 2019, was I mean, I think crypto, quote unquote, was quite popular. The kind of the get rich quick, the fiat thinking you mentioned, like I did feel that a little bit. Like it felt like there. I mean, as a whole, I felt I could characterize the country. It's an extremely creative place. Like it's kind of like searching for identity. It's searching for its creativity, and it's kind of found like there's some really cool music and film and cinema and stuff coming out of Taiwan. But at the same time, like politically, it's just in this really weird place which you can't really understand unless you go there. But like the idea of revolution, kind of financial revolution, it's I think it's quite problematic. Like people maybe have difficulty with it because they're already an other to China. So you get the money and it's all like year 104 of the republic, and so the country already is existing in a alternative to the monolith, which is the Chinese kind of worldview. And so for that to then also to be further revolutionized through some kind of new money or something, it might just be too much for people. Like, I don't know, is that sort of making sense? Like,
right. That's an interesting perspective. Hmm. Yeah, I can't say I fully understand the mentality here yet,
yeah,
even though my parents are Taiwanese, and but I don't know. There's some things that I just I still don't quite understand, even though I've lived here for so long.
what sort of things?
I mean, it's things like this. I think like in New Zealand or anywhere like my friend group in New Zealand, we like to talk about things in depth and like talk about um I think yeah, you do get that in Taiwan as well, but strangely not so much in terms of like the financial system. Um, yeah, I have no idea. I really don't.
That's all good, man. I mean, again,
Yeah,
no, it's been a while, but I just my feeling was like it's like even the banks, like I can't even remember the name of some of the banks, but like you walk into the and they're like I don't know, it seems like really weird because they're like not they don't even look like real banks, and the money it's like you're right near it's like New Zealand and Australia, but like 100x. You've got this like smaller country and then this big country, and the identity of the smaller country is like in relation to the other one, and it's like I think that means that people that they don't want to explore and venture too much because it's an existential question. Like it's a really big thing to grapple with, and it's a lot easier to just put your head down and work and focus on other stuff. And I think that's maybe why it's so creative and there's output in other areas. There's excellent
right.
engineering. There's some. I think like ASUS and a lot like MSI and all these like graphics cards and manufacturers and semiconductors and stuff are all made in Taiwan. And I mean, as I said, it punches above its weight. But like my feeling at the time, which again I wasn't thinking about Bitcoin at the time, but like I just my impression because I was there for quite a few months. It was like, oh, it's in this like gray zone,
Yeah,
and so it's a really cool place for ideas to come. But yeah, as you say, it's kind of hard to go deep into those ideas.
yeah. I think I think like the Chinese mentality or like and mentality that's more prominent in Asia is kind of like follow the system, you listen to your elders. I think that also plays a role. I mean there's no like perfect culture, but I think there's um, aspects of a culture that maybe like taken too much to an extreme that can be toned back a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, that's all good, man. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I mean, New Zealand is exactly the same, though, in a way. Like, I mean, I don't see people
true.
here really questioning things that much. I mean, in my circle of friends, we have conversations, but most people are pretty much with they're following the rule book that's been laid out by the government. So it's not any one particular country's is better or worse. I think it's more just like understanding the place we've been. I mean, I would argue New Zealand is a very naive country. Like we don't know anything. We've never gone through a revolution or had any major sort of traumatic stuff like that. Whereas other countries, they have, and so their response to like revolutionary technology or ideas is different.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess sort of moving on to sort of what you mentioned at the beginning that you were really lucky to get basically shoulder tapped and kind of someone saw the potential in you and that sort of enabled you to go through this process with Spiral and to get funded to do your work with BDK. What are your thoughts on like for other young people like getting involved in Bitcoin, learning to develop Bitcoin stuff? Like, I mean, what do you see are the opportunities there?
I think, I mean, yeah, I think my focus is very like narrow. So, but I think in terms of like if you want to do like open source contributions, I think it's important to ask many questions. I don't think people ask enough questions. For example, I think one thing that really worked for me was, for example, if you want to contribute to a library, the first thing is to actually use the library and understand it. Because when you use it, then you understand it, you'll start seeing the problems with it. And then from there, you'll want to dig in, you want to try fix the problems, and then you dig into the code and you don't understand something, you start asking questions to the other developers. And it's important to go and learn the stuff you want to learn and don't focus on just maybe like trying to make money. Focus on what you're interested in because, in the future, it's you have to work, unfortunately. 40 hours a week. It's probably good to have like to work on something that you enjoy.
Well, that's the period we're moving into now, I think, which is this search for authenticity. And I
Yeah.
mean, I sort of through my various projects and work, I sort of interface with a lot of different developers and talented people, and I always take it the moment to tell people like, look, man, I think you're really good, and I can just see like the potential for people to contribute to this new ecosystem of Bitcoin stuff, and
Yeah.
I think there's something really like deeply rewarding for people about that. And I mean, I'm lucky because the people I work with are working in stuff that's not big tech. It's quite fulfilling work on its own. But
Yeah.
beyond that, it's like if you've got skills and you're passionate, like there's someone looking for a developer or a product manager or even some of the soft skills around design and UX. Like there's opportunities out there in the Bitcoin space to build stuff. And so I try to like encourage people as well and say, hey, I think you could do this because it takes that certain mind you said, about asking questions and kind of that curiosity. It's not for everyone, but for those who are asking those questions, there's a lot of fulfillment that they can find from working on Bitcoin stuff or open source stuff more generally. But if they're trying to work, they've maybe been slapped with a student loan or whatever, and it's like, well, I got to pay the bills, but you're not doing what you're really passionate about.
Yeah. I think a lot of time I hear like this type of thinking, which is like, hey, what technologies should I learn so that I can make more money or like get more opportunities? I don't think that's the correct way of thinking about things. I think the correct way is, hey, figure out what do you want to work on? What do you enjoy? What do you think is important? And then from there, because there is an interest, there is a drive, then you'll get good at the stuff that you're doing. And I
Yeah.
think in general, you know, I think the it's very difficult to find competent developers and engineers in general. So it doesn't matter which aspect or which technology you learn. If you are competent, the chances of finding a job are very high.
What do you think is the role of, you mentioned Lloyd was your mentor in a way.
Yeah,
What do you think is the role of that in a decentralized world? Like with
yeah,
Bitcoin projects, maybe you don't even get the chance to meet the people that you're collaborating with. Like, how can you foster deep understanding of code and kind of what something's supposed to do? And like, how do you see that working with like Bitcoin projects?
that's a very, very, very good question. I think there is a balance. I think there has to be a center to everything. It's either the center is people, authoritarian figure giving directions, someone with authority, or the center could be principles. And I think with Bitcoin, you can it's it should be about principles, but sometimes the ego does get in the way. But I think in general, communicating the decentralized team where there's like no leader. I guess there's leaders at different times, and then the leaders are assigned based on like who's most competent at the time, and then we go, hey, we'll listen to you. It's based on basically principles, and from the principles you have a priority list of what is the most important thing that you need to work on, and then from there, I think if people focus on the principles and then let go of their ego, things should run smoother.
That's really cool, man. That's good advice for life as well. But I really love what you said about principles because that's something, talking with some of the builder community, Bitcoin builder community here back in New Zealand, it's like a theme that comes up again and again because you've got, there's always personalities and the cult of the personality which can emerge, but having principles that you can kind of fall back on, and Bitcoin already gives you a couple of them out of the box, proof of work, uh,
Yeah,
verify, don't trust, consensus, these kinds of things. And so straight away you can, the structure of Bitcoin actually can inform the way that you run an operation. And so it's like, well, let's put it to consensus. Let's, verify, don't trust. Let's do the work, and I think stuff like that can then be built upon, keep it simple. Well, what's the MVP? Let's make it work, and then we can add fluff later. And stuff like that. I mean, it just sounds like it's like a good place to start trying to build something.
yeah, it's a good summary.
Yeah. um, so yeah, we'll talk about how your story, how you were in Taiwan, you started working on this open source Bitcoin projects that anyone can use in projects that they're interested in and want to build stuff with. With turning the lens back on New Zealand, have you been back in the last few years? Like, what's your relationship with New Zealand like now that you've spent quite a few years overseas?
So during COVID, I was back for like a year. To be fair, I think I haven't. So last year, I've been back. I was back like a couple of times, but for maybe like just less than a month each time. My relationship with New Zealand, I mean, I think the friends I made, I think it's typical when like the friends you make during childhood and they stick with you for longer, and you could. I find it easy to communicate with New Zealanders in general. I don't know what it is. Maybe because I grew up there. But yes, and Taiwan, people are nice, but I think culturally, just it's easier for me to communicate with New Zealanders, and I don't think I'll be in Taiwan for the long term. I think I'll be here for the midterm, but I would prefer to be in New Zealand.
Yeah, man. I know
Yeah,
what you mean. I mean, I was in a similar boat, man. I got out of here when as soon as I could, and I was living in Asia for 5 years. And at the time, I was like, man, I can't wait to get out. I was stuck in Wellington. I was like, man, this is cold. It sucks. I can't wait to get out. And then this second time round, living here again, pretty much 10 years later, it's like, man, I can see the flaws in it, but I'm also like, yeah, I agree with you. It's so easy to work with New Zealanders. There's this kind of attitude towards collaboration, which I never really felt. And, I was in Japan, but it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just like the DIY kind of community approach where it's like stuff has to get done, someone has to do it. All right, let's do it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt there's a sort of degree of naive honesty that people have when they're doing something, and they'll put their hand up and say, like, I need some help with this, or what do you think? And you can just talk about the problem. Like, it's a really good place for
Yeah.
engineers because it's like you can just talk about the problem. You don't have to get the politics in and kind of the office politics and stuff. You know what I mean?
I do know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I also really appreciate that about New Zealand. We're like just very transparent when you collaborate with different engineers. There's a problem, you bring it up. Or you're working on, you tell everybody, and then if you have an idea, you'll say it. I think, for example, in Taiwan, if you're working in a more corporate environment, there's like this mentality where like you'll be scared to share ideas because if you share ideas, they might get stolen by someone else, and then and things like that. It's I think that kind of mentality is a little bit more prominent in Asia.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the
yeah,
other thing that I noticed was like a humbleness as well. Like, you spend time alongside, people from other countries and stuff. And like, I've come to appreciate just kind of the downspoken nature of Kiwis. Like, they might be like the most amazing developer, but they're just like, oh, I'll give it a go. And, so they're honest about what they're doing, but they're not like overconfident either. Like,
yeah,
so there's kind of like, it's kind of like the underselling and over delivering. Generally, like
yeah,
a lot of the guys I know who are doing, tech or engineering stuff, and like honestly, some of the best developers and designers I've ever met in my life. But they're like, oh,
yeah,
I don't know, like it's sort of like it's because
yeah,
like verify, don't trust, like they're not like, yeah, I'm amazing, like they're kind of down low and then they just deliver. Um, and for me, there's something really valuable about that because it's kind of long term thinking. Um,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
if you're working with other people and it's like they say they can do it, and then it's like, well, actually, where's the goods? So, and I mean, the proof is in the work, right? Um, did you,
yeah,
does it do what it's supposed to do? So, it's a really cool journey though, man. And like, I mean, New Zealand is a small place, but I mean, I do have a glimmer of hope that maybe we can become a bit of a place for innovation. Because that's the problem is a lot of people leave New Zealand because there's no, or perceived to be no opportunities here. And that's true. I think, even Auckland is a very small place compared to what you can find in Taipei, some of the tech companies and stuff over there. So it is challenging, but if we can bring those people back and have like that global community, but in New Zealand and that kind of New Zealand culture, I think there could be something really beautiful there in the future.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, look, man, is there anywhere you want to send people? I mean, you're on Twitter, you share stuff on GitHub. I mean, what if people want to follow along with your work and your contributions to Bitcoin? Like, where can they find you?
Yeah, I think well, in terms of BDK, join our Discord.
Okay.
I'll be there to answer questions if I can. I mean, I don't know everything,
Neither
but
do I.
but I'll do my best. That's it. I think you covered everything. GitHub, Twitter.
Yeah. Sweet, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, look, we'll wrap it up there. I appreciate your time, Evan. And I hope we can catch up in person sometime, whether it's me coming over to Taiwan or you making it back to these southern islands. But it'd be good
Yeah.
to catch up. And yeah, man, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and it's good to hear some Kiwis out there doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah. It's good to catch up with you.
Sweet,
And in
man.
fact, I am planning a trip back to New Zealand next month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Auckland, or you'll be floating?
I'll be in Auckland,
Yeah.
but you say you're based in Wellington?
Yeah, well, we do have there is a Bitcoin a Bitcoin meetup, the Bitcoin meetup happening in July 22nd if you'll be in New Zealand on that day.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Wait,
man.
July. Okay, that's actually perfect. So I'll be around like the 20th. I mean, I won't be in New Zealand for long, maybe less than a week. So
Yeah.
you say the 22nd?
Yeah, man. Saturday 22nd.
That might actually work.
Oh, bro, if you could make it like it's called BitKiwi.
Yeah,
I'll send you some of the details, but it's a couple of my buddies who run it. It's these three guys in Wellington, and
nice.
pretty much it's like the Bitcoin meetup. So there's a bunch of people flying in for it. And then there's going to be a bigger one, or there's going to be another one in October in Auckland, but the July one is here in Wellington. So man, if you can make it, that'd be bloody awesome.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
And we
I
can
think I've heard about it. on
Yeah.
Twitter and all that. But
Oh
yeah,
man, it's awesome. They've actually got this thing where you can like buy the beers with sats, with the Lightning Network. And
that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's really well done. So yeah, I really encourage you to do that if you get a chance. So hopefully I'll see you there, man.
Awesome.
Sweet. All right, thank you, Evan.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you for listening. I do hope you enjoyed the show. I am Cody Ellingham, and that was the Transformation of Value podcast. If you would like to get in touch with me, please send an email to hello@thetransformationofvalue.com and I will get back to you.